Today you see fun dart manipulation, super easy, some pleats, some ties, lots of different aspects to see from the same pattern. Sneak peek from one of them, look at that. I'm showing 4 garments today from the same pattern, a super fun video to watch, so stay with me. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing. Today I have a lot of limitless sewing for you. I have taken a pattern that is very simple, very easy to fit, and I've added things to it because it's just fun. I have already made this pattern before, and this is the Cadence Top and Dress from Love Notions, and today, Friday the 4th of September, it is only $5. So it's a good day to get this awesome pattern that can take you so many directions of fun. At least for me, I look at a pattern like this and I just see so many ideas coming into my mind. I mean, I had about 100 ideas. And if I'm honest, if I had like another week maybe, I would have sewn like 20 different types of tops with different little things because there's so much you can do. In essence, the Cadence Top and Dress is for woven fabrics, hopefully ones that flow nicely, not heavyweight fabrics. And there's multiple options for lengths, so you can make tops and dresses. You can add several types of different sleeves, and as for shaping, there are side bust darts there, and there's a standard bust option and a full bust option, so whatever suits you best. Optional waist casings there if you want to do that for the dress. For the maxi version, there's side slits all the way down. So I mean, with this pattern you can make like 100 different pieces and they're all gonna look very different. They all have a scoop neckline, a center back seam, and originally the pattern finishes the insides with facings, and also the burrito method, you know, the clean sleeveless method. I just use bias binding for all my necklines and armholes. I'm just so accustomed to that and always get really good results. I find that easier and if not more fun than doing facings in my opinion. But you can do facings, it's all up to you. You can make that choice. If you want to see a pattern review for this pattern, go ahead and look at the video I made last year where I made myself the shift dress sleeveless and I made my mum the top with short sleeves. And I made them in the same fabric so we could do adult twinning, mommy and me, but adult version. So my mum loved the sleeves. I can say that because I never sew sleeves, so it's really hard for me to have an opinion about them. But my mum did have an opinion about them, that they fit super well. The shoulder seam was right at her shoulder, and she had good mobility, which is really important when you sew on sleeves. You want to be able to move your arms. So she says they were fine. I made 2 for her. One in rayon twill with stripes and another one in cotton eyelet, like broderie and glaze, however you call that fabric, super expensive fabric. And it's one of her precious garments. I mean, it's really pretty. I use the scallops to my advantage, and I use the same Cadence top that fits her really well. The pattern yet hasn't been updated to include up to 5X, so it only is up to 3X as for now, so extra small to 3X. The fitting adjustments I made last year to my pattern and other ones that I based myself to make all these other versions were super simple. I dropped my bust dart. That is always a normal thing for me to do. I don't even think about it, so that was just ready there waiting for me. I also added length to the top, just above the waist line on the top. There's a line across that says waist. I measured that and felt that it was too short for me, so I added 1 1/4 or 1.5 inches, something like that. And then for the tops that I've made, I cut them shorter than the line that says he cut here for the shirt or for the top length. I like mine a tad shorter, so mine's about 1 inch shorter than that. For the dress versions, I always need to add. So the one that hits above the knee on that line there, I needed to add. So I'd already added at the waist, but then down at the bottom, I had to add another inch. My dress is in essence 2.5 inches longer than the original so that it hits me above the knee and it doesn't turn out to be like a mini dress. I'll show you the first garment I made. This is a scrap I had left over, a tiny little piece, very unique type of print. I have a dress I made years ago. I had a scrap left from that fabric and I always knew I wanted to make some type of top because it was such a small piece. So I'll show this one to you. I haven't filmed any sewing about this one. It's just very simple. So it's beautiful. It was like the print had large black areas and then had these flowers like on a stripe and then more black area and then flowers again like that. So this amount was perfect to get all these lovely roses to be in the center area of the garment. I didn't have much fabric to play around with pattern placement, so I am very glad none of these roses ended up on right on the apex, you know. So that's good. But I love this. The fabric is heavy. It's more of a bottom weight fabric, I would say. It's a really heavyweight crepe. So for the top, it's fine. I can still wear it. The finishing methods here for the sleeveless armhole and neckline I did modify. I felt top stitching would have looked horrible, so I just sewed it down by hand. So it's still understitched, all that is just done by hand. In this one, I decided to curve the hem just to do something different. So it is shorter on the side seams and then it curves down. It's not a super pronounced curve. I just freehand drew it on the pattern. You can do that too. It's nothing really that special, you know. That's how I did that. And to hem, I've got bias tape. There's no way I could have just folded up and hemmed normally without having terrible, horrible looking packers in this bulky fabric. So this is the only way, bias tape. Always a good result. I know that my hip circumference has increased since making my dress last year. I tried on my dress and yes, they are fitted at the hips. It's not fitting as intended, like a shift style that's sort of more loose fitting. It was fitted, you know. So I added a tiny bit on the sides for this. I used this one that was still unhemmed, unfinished to try on and mark certain reference points that I needed on the pattern to do the other ideas I had. One of them was to mark the height of my waist there on the side seam of the pattern and also mark the height of my back waist on the pattern. So the smallest of my back. I tried this on, put pins, marked where it was on my body and then took this and did the marks on the pattern, and that was super helpful to have one that was partially made already so I could do that on the garment itself rather than trying to guess. And you can do flat pattern measurements, but sometimes it's just better to do it on the actual garment. Super easy to make, love this. It can be super simple because of this striking fabric. So let's see how it looks. This is the first one. I made this round, very heavy fabric. It's actually more appropriate for bottoms. But I love this print and I really wanted to have it as a top, so I used it anyway. It is shorter. This is the first one I made with a curved hem. And with this one, I sort of tried it on and figured out the fit adjustments I needed for my next version. Here you can see up closer, this is the length there and then it goes off shorter here. Well, I put a black skirt, bad idea, right? But that's the seam right there. And it curves down and then it curves there. To get a nice hem, there's bias tape as a hem. And that is much better than trying to fold up this bulky fabric. But I love this. I love the prints here. I knew for my next versions I needed to add a little bit more to the hips because a straight large is no longer fitting me. So it's fine here on the top, but here I just need a little bit more. All I do from there is add 3/8 to the fabric. I don't modify a pattern piece or cut out a new size. I just add more where I need it, and it's in this area there. But this is still wearable, it's just more fitted, you know. So I have the original neckline and the armhole that would have a sleeve. I have bias tape in there, but I didn't top stitch it down. It's hand sewn inside. The fabric is just way too bulky and it would have looked terrible. I actually did try for a little piece and I just thought it was gonna look hideous. So if I hand hemmed at the bottom, I might as well just hand sew the whole thing, and that way it's nice and neat and there's no ugly top stitching there. I do make a lot of decisions on the way as I go and as I feel the fabric and as I see how it looks sewn, and this one looks terrible if it's top stitched, so not doing it. Love, 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 love this. I mean, I've been dreaming about doing this, and little piece left over, awesome, love it. I need to point out that all my versions are sleeveless. It is too hot, ladies. I would love to sew the sleeves, but I just cannot deal with it. On the pattern, there is a line that is narrower. It says cut here for tank. I don't use that. I just use the normal armhole that would have a sleeve because it gives me more coverage here. And you know, I'm always looking for the smallest armhole possible and a lot of coverage. So I just use that one and it works well. It doesn't give any gaping. It's just really well made, you know, so that's what I use. I few weeks ago I made a free pattern of a wide leg trouser, really nice bubble crepe, super nice, and I was really careful to make those pants to save as much as possible so I could have enough for a little top. I'll never wear them together. I don't like dressing in the same fabric from head to toe. So it's not my intention to ever wear these things matching each other like on the same outfit, but I love the fabric and I can have a separate. And for this one, I had random shapes of leftover fabric. And for that, I decided to still keep the curved hem, only the front was going to be a tad shorter than the back. And I also decided to do a really creative pleat on the back. So just on the back, usually we make hacks and little things on the front and we forget about the back. Well, this one's the opposite. The front is plain, nothing different there, but there's something at the back. So let's see how that came to be.
You've been raining down like hell. I'm weak.
Don't mind my clothes. I already have a regular Cadence top on that I've just made. This one has a curved hem, and I just want to make a mark there where the small of my back is with the garment on. This is the easiest way, so I can feel it. It's right there, and I put a pin right there. I took off the blouse. I just tried on and marked where the small of my back was, or my waist height, but on the garment it's much easier that way. I've just aligned the center back of this top that I've already made onto the paper pattern, aligning at the neckline and then going down. That blue mark that you see there is my waist height at the back. Marked it with a friction pen, and then I marked it on the pattern there, and that is where I want to have a seam going across so that it's at the height of my waist. After drawing the line, I've just split my pattern in two. The top part of the back will be cut on the fold. I'll be folding away the seam allowance there because there is a center seam. This one will also be cut on the fold, but differently. Here you can see how much wider this bottom bit of the back is going to be. So any excess here will be a pleat there and will be a pleat there. I've left 3/8 seam allowance at the bottom there and on the top there. So when I unite them, the side seams are still going to be the same and they are going to match the front. That is unchanged. This is a longer one that will be pleated into that one, and I've marked there in yellow. There in yellow you can see the center points. This is the wider one that goes on the bottom. This is the one that goes on the top. Also on the one that goes on the top, from here to the edge, I've marked another half there. So essentially I've divided this one into 4, but I didn't count the 3/8 seam allowance on the side. The center mark is only to match this together because the pleats are going to be here and there. Okay, so what I've got here on the bottom is the short piece, and I've got the long piece on top. I've matched the side seams here and I've pinned both centers there, so I have all this excess here. So I'm just going to keep pinning here until I reach that yellow mark there. And then from the side I'm going to keep pinning here until I reach that point there. And you can see all that excess there is my pleat. Now that I've got that pinned, I'm just going to open this up like that and distribute the volume of the pleat evenly on each side. And I'm going to pin like that. For these box pleats, I don't do basting stitches or anything. This is just too easy. You don't need to do that. They're not slanted pleats or like pleats that go in a shape that have been trued or anything. This is just straight. So there's one pleat done there, and now on the other side the same. Okay, and you can see there it's all been pinned. That box pleat has been done there, that one there. There is the center. The side seams are matching from both pieces, and now I'm just going to sew them at 3/8 seam allowance because that's what I did when I cut this apart. There you have a general view of the back. The seam there is at the height of my waist, and then we have a box pleat there and one there. Now I can just attach this to the front and keep going like normal. This is my second top. You've seen pants. This is just lovely to make from such a small little piece. For all these versions, I haven't changed from the original neckline or the armholes. They are all unchanged. And so this has a plain front with a side buster, a little bit of a curved hem on the front, but not as pronounced as the one I've just shown you. And all the interest is actually on the back. Look, this is a print, so you won't see it like right in your face, but there is a seam right there and it's right at the height of my waist. That's why I really wanted to know where that was on my body. And then here we have a box pleat, and there we have a box pleat. If you saw what I was just sewing, you saw I didn't do any maths at all, nothing. I just took the bottom piece, placed it on the fold, and just put away the center away from the fold of the fabric so I would have a wider piece. Whatever was available on my scrap of fabric. I knew that what I'd added was enough to get a pleat there, but I didn't measure it. I didn't do any of that. You saw I just matched from the center out to the first mark of the pleat and then pinned from the side seams in until I had the same excess on both sides, pinned my pleat, sewed it, easy peasy lemon squeezy, nothing different, no basting, nothing of that, because these types of straight pleats are just like that. You don't need to true them, you don't need to do any of that. I wasn't trying to match this pleat to another pleat, none of that. So this was extremely easy to do. And the bottom, maybe you can see from the front, but the bottom is longer. So here's the front hem and the bottom's there. You will see the details better when I show this on. And I love adding little things like that that are just unique. No one's gonna have a top like that. Unless you do exactly what I do. You are allowed, of course, to always use my ideas and make them for yourself if you like them. I've seen some of you ask, and I'm like, of course, if I'm sharing this, it's for you to do as well if you like. So yeah, let's see how this one looks on. This is a Cadence top, slightly curved hem, shorter than the original shirt length, so that it hits my mid hip. That's where I like it. And I'll show you the curved hem closer and the detail that has the pleat at the back. Otherwise it's the same top, nothing changed up here. Here you can see this is the length, and then it curves slightly up to here, and then it's slightly longer at the back. This is purely to do with the fabric I had available, so it is a design feature also. Up higher on the front it just looks like a regular top, there's nothing there. At the back we have that seam with those little pleats there, and they just add something different to the back. And I did it just because I had the fabric, and why not add something different to this top. I love that I got this one from a scrap. I love that. Adapted to the fabric, added a little detail at the back to make it more fun. Super fun project, and knowing that it already fits, I don't have to worry about that. It's just about being creative and having fun. Love that. And then going on to another top. I had been dreaming about this one for a long time actually. I bought this pink fabric. At the same time I bought a printed linen that had flowers that I made my Allegro pants in a few weeks ago. I have shown already the pants here on the channel. I have a whole video. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch that one. But you can see there's this pink there. It's not excessive pink on the print, but there is pink splashed everywhere. It is a bright pink, and that is the type of pink that I like. Same as like this pink here. I wouldn't go for baby or pastel pink, but bright pink for me is like red. It's like in the same sort of brightness. So I like that. So I knew I wanted to make that pink top to match my Allegro pants, because otherwise I would just have black tops to put on top of the Allegro pants, right? I love doing some dart manipulation. It is extremely fun. And a few months ago, I did something similar. I took the side bust dart and transferred all that volume onto the neckline. Now I've done something super similar, like almost the same. So in this case, instead of taking that bust dart volume to the neckline, I've taken it to this area here. So instead of making cut lines up to here, I just made it up to the shoulder. But I did modify the shoulder a little bit because I didn't want the gathers to be right up here on top of the shoulder seam. I wanted them lower. Very easy adjustment to make. I had a whole lot of fun doing it. I hope you give it a go because it's super easy, and you can have a pattern like this that fits you well, that you know the darts are good, that everything's good, and you can just start making these little things and just add more possibilities, you know, limitless sewing. And you can get so many more garments from this pattern when you do these things. So let's see how I did that one.
You've been rated down like hell. I'm weak.
This is the shoulder from the front, and I want my actual front to start here because the gathers I want to bring in from that bust start, I want them to be here but not right on the shoulder seam. So what I've done is draw the same little shape right there, shoulder seam, neckline, that's the armhole, and from the seam line, from there I measured 2 inches down and just drew a line across and then added 3/8 seam allowance right there. All I'm going to do is pin this to the back here. So that little bit that I cut exactly this shape is pinned onto here, and this will actually extend the back here. It will just be longer, but this will actually be the shoulder seam, but it won't have a seam there. You know, it just won't have a seam. It will just extend there, and the seam will be down below, like down there. You get what I'm saying? So this line that I've got here, I'm going to fold it back and leave myself 3/8 seam allowance right there. That is my seam line there. The gathers are going to be here, and I've got the seam allowance, and I've got the seam allowance there. When these get united, I'm still going to have the original piece. It's just that the back piece will be extending to the front a little bit. It'll look like there's a yoke there, but there actually isn't one. It's just an extension from the back. So that's how I'm going to cut the back piece like normal. Just be careful to stay stitched so that this doesn't stretch out of shape. And then my front will be shorter, my back will be longer, but they will still be the same. And I can destroy this pattern piece now to create gathers coming up to here. You can see my bust start right there from the pattern. I know it fits me well because I've already made this top. From the center front up to that point there, I've measured 4 3/4 inches, which is actually the distance from one bust to the other bust here on the other side. If I measure myself from the front, so from the center there, that's half of the distance. For my body, you need to check that on yours, but I know that by heart, 4 3/4 inches or 12 centimeters. So that is my apex point right there. And I have already lowered that bust up. That's an adjustment that has been done previously. So here where I want to add the gathers, I've just chosen the middle point, joined it to my apex right there, and then I've chosen this dart leg and joined it to the apex. You can see that the dart point finishes away from the apex, and it's supposed to be like that. You never want a dart to finish right there, or you're gonna have a really pointy bust. You can choose this dart leg or the other to cut into. I've chosen the top one because it fits better pointing there in that sense. So whatever, it doesn't really matter, because to close the dart you just need to put one leg over the other. My apex here is the pivot point, and I just always put a piece of tape there because it rips really easily, especially tissue paper. So I'm going to cut this dart leg up to my apex point, that's the pivot point, and then cut through this line here. Now this dart leg will go onto that dart leg, and now I've opened up all this extra space here. So I'm going to put that paper there so you can see it. I've got my paper on my cutting board, and I've got the center front right on the line to make sure it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't distort, because I want that to stay on grain line. When I move this away, then that's going to change the shape, but not the center front. So I'll just put that one there and close that dart there. And on this space here, I'm just going to join them with a curve just to make them even. I use the curve on this ruler there to just unite them nicely, not like a straight line. Cut that out. So that is my new pattern piece with all that added space. This will be gathered into the original amount, you know. The volume that was on the side bust start now has been closed there and taken up to the top. It'll fit exactly the same. The blouse will still fit the bust. It'll just look different, and you have gathers coming in from there. Remember, I'd modified the back so that it's longer and it includes the top part of this. So you can see how wide this is and how wide that is, and how that excess will be gathered into fit there. So I'm very excited to sew this. Here are the two pieces. This is the modified front. This is the center fold right there for the front. It looks like it has a shorter arm side, but remember, part of it is on that little piece there that I'd cut away before and added to there. So basically the back has a longer piece here that will come over and unite there. This is the back where I have this extension here. This is essentially part of the front piece there. These are the seam allowances there. Pretend this has been sewn. So if you want to try this hack and you have plans to put on a sleeve, make sure to make a mark there on your fabric where the shoulder seam would be, because there's not going to be one. So make sure you mark that there with something so that when you are putting your sleeve, you know that that is the reference for the shoulder seam. This is the back. I've sewn the center back seam and I've stay stitched the neckline, and I've also stay stitched the armholes. And this white line here would be where the shoulder would originally be, right there. So if you were sewing sleeves, you would need that reference in order for you to set in your sleeve properly. I marked it just to show you. I'm not doing sleeves, but just to show you. This is the front. That's the neckline there. I've got 2 rows of long stitch length for gathering within the seam allowance. And now I need to gather those to match this width here. I've tied off the long threads from one of these sides so that doesn't move. I also didn't do the gathering stitch right up to the edge. I stopped about 5/8 in there and 5/8 from the edge there because I don't want gathers right on the neckline or right on the armhole. So I'm going to take the threads that are on the top, not the bobbin ones, and just pull. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's ready to sew. I'll do that, and then it's the same exact thing on the other side. I think it looks super pretty from the other side. They're nice and even, as best as you can get. And then that just needs to be serged, and I'll be pressing the seam up. Before I show you this one, let me tell you where I got the bias tape from. A few months ago, I used the Cadence top pattern to refit and resize a thrifted linen blouse I had. I'll put a picture here. So I took away the side seams, extended the whole blouse, and then put the Cadence pattern on there, just keeping the shoulder seams intact from the original. That kept the button placket and the collar and everything from the original shirt. But because it was larger than me, I was able to resize, use the shape, the bust dye, everything. And from those sleeves, I made bias binding that matches this one. So that's where I got it from. But that is another way I have used the Cadence blouse in the past, because I already know it fits me. You can give it multiple uses, like for resizing something that you thrifted or something that just doesn't fit you right from the shops. So have a look at that video too, because I also showed the Cadence top there. I really hope you try and do this, and don't think it's hard. Just take paper, just follow along what I'm doing, do it on your pattern, and you will be able to do it. I promise you. Practice on a piece of scrap, give it a go. You know, this stuff is really fun. And once you start getting used to making these changes in your patterns, you will become addicted. I'm telling you, I would have made 100 different styles, but I just don't have time. But this is another bubble crepe, pink. Love this. It's actually showing on screen the pink it is. It's quite a bright pink. I did not have matching serger thread. I just used regular pink sewing machine thread in a lighter color, so that annoyed me. This is the bias binding. It's not in the same shade of pink, but close enough, better than black bias binding or like white bias binding, you know. And here is the lovely detail of the gathers. I am in love with that. I am obsessed. So you see that there's no seam on the shoulder. That was eliminated, and the back just becomes longer and comes over to the front like that. That means that this detail is better seen on the flat surface there, sort of on the upper chest area, rather than poking out here on the shoulders. So I thought about that. And the rest of the top is normal. There is a center back seam like the original top has. There is minimal shaping on that seam. That's why I'm pretty happy to eliminate it if I need to. But if I don't have to, I'll do it. That's fine. And this one actually has a normal hem, not a curved hem like the other ones, just normal. And you know, it's such a simple top, and this little detail gives it everything. So let's see how it looks with the Allegro pants. I love it. Pink top with gathers over here with my Allegro pants. They match perfect. That's why I made it. And I love having this outfit. I feel amazing in this outfit. This color makes me really happy. So I'll show you up close the details. This one just has a straight hem. There's nothing special about this hem, and I'd already added a little bit of ease there to the hips, so I feel this one fits much better. Here you can see the top, same neckline, same armhole. No dots there, that volume taken up to the top, and the gathers are so beautiful in this crepe, so delicate, and I think they show off better if they're coming down lower. If I just left the shoulder seam normal, these would be too high up here and they would poke up and make bulky on the shoulders as such. That's why I brought them down by 2 inches and just extended the back to come over to the front. So there's no shoulder seam, that was eliminated, and this just brings in forward. So the fabric just comes forward, and this is where the seam with the gathers are, and I think they do look better, nicer. Love this. I had to stop myself from cutting out several more just because I'm only human and I can't sew that much, but I had a green crepe, a red one there that would just be perfect for this. So eventually when I have time I will get around to them. I think on a solid this just shows more and it's just so pretty. I'd wanted to do this for so long. For the last one, this is a dress. It's also bubble crepe in a tie-dye type print. Don't think I'm doing tie-dye because I don't know how to do that and I don't have the supplies, so I don't think I'll ever be doing that myself. And also I realized I only like tie-dye if it's gray and black and white sort of tones of color. I don't really enjoy other colors. I found the fabric and I really like it. So I'd had an idea about doing this for months with the Cadence, and it was just to add a wide chunky tie to the side seams, you know, sandwiched in between the side seams, that is wider at the side seam and then goes into a point, so narrower where you would tie to avoid bulk. So I just freehand eyeballing drafted a tie that looks like this. I'll put it on the screen. You know, I'm not going to give you specific measurements. You know, you can make it wide, 6 to 8 inches, however wide you want. I wouldn't go wider than 8 inches though. And just mark a center point there, and that would mark the waist height on your side seam. And that was what I marked initially by trying this on and putting a pin there and making a line on the pattern, so I knew where that was. And I just sewed those ties, 2 layers, flipped them right sides out, sandwiched them in the side seams there. I had added about 3/8 of an inch to the sides of size large just to fit my hips, and I kept the same size large for this dress. I only added a little bit more so that there'd be a tad more space at the hips. Again, I am not cutting a new size, I'm not cutting another pattern, I'm using just what I have because all this part fits fine. It's just that for a dress, I don't really like a fitted woven dress. I like it to be flowy, so I just added a tad more. And also it helps the ties bring it in and create a bit more draping effect. On my Patreon page, the ladies that join me there on the saffron and orchid tees get extra exclusive videos from me. And so all the process of drafting and sewing this dress is there for Patreon. So if you ever are interested in seeing my exclusive content, you're always welcome to join me there if you can and want to also support me financially. So just letting you know, that's what I do. I don't make an exclusive video for every single one, but pretty frequently there are a lot of extra videos in there in Patreon as well. So here is my dress, tie-dye. I made bias tape out of the same fabric because I had a little piece, so I did that. And so the armholes and everything are finished with self-made bias tape, and that was nice. And here are the ties. So they come out of the side seams, they're wider there and they go off to a peak. About the length, make them as long as you want. You know, I think I made the bare minimum of length here. I have a general concept of proportions, but I could have done with a bit more length on those ties. They still tie, but maybe a bit more, you know? So if you're on Patreon, you can see the process of making this one there. Otherwise it's just longer. It's the same pattern piece, just that dress length. And I've got a simple hem on the bottom. At the back I cut it on the fold. I didn't want to distort this print because it would just look strange, so I just cut it on the fold. As I said, there's not much shaping on the back, so I think you can fold away the seam allowance. And the tie just gives it that special touch. I really love this detail. So go ahead and see how this one looks on. Here's my Cadence with ties. Otherwise it's a shift dress that's super loose, super comfortable. I just put these ties to give a little something extra, super easy to do, above the knee. For length adjustments, I added 1.5 inches here above the waist and then another inch down below, so 2.5 extra inches for it to hit above my knee. Here you can see up close, this is the place I had marked pinning onto myself where my waist is, and so that's where half of the tie is, half up, half down, and they're just coming out of the side seams and they just tie up there. I maybe could have done with a little bit more length on the tie. Maybe 25 inches would have been good instead of 20, but I was eyeballing it, so I'll take that. But it's good. There aren't any darts there, and then it would just be nice and loose. And here it's the same as all the other versions. This is the original scoop neckline, no change there. And this armhole is the one you would use if you were putting on a sleeve. There is another one that comes in narrower, but I like this one. I have my bust dart right there, and it's been lowered an inch to match my bust point there. So I think the bust dart fits well, the volume. I just always need it lower. Super easy to do, it fits really well, super comfy, and these ties are everything. I would do this to a bunch of dresses because I think they just really look nice. Gives it something extra. Love this. I hope you enjoyed seeing all these versions. I am telling you, I had a blast yesterday while making them all. The only tedious and longer bits were the binding, and it's just because I did so many of them. You know, if you're just making one, it'll be fine. So I absolutely enjoyed sewing all these up. As I told you, I had so many more ideas, I just didn't have the time. But hey, a pattern like this can keep you busy for a long time. Today's a really good day to get it at only $5. You're always welcome to use my affiliate link. That supports me because I make a small commission from every single of those sales, and they do add up. So thank you so much if you are using my link. Please click on the notifications so that you know exactly when my videos go live and you don't miss out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!
Ooh.